Episode 31. Frustrated Radley Ridge. Knox Ridge was completely stunned. The security guard showed no intention of stepping forward to interfere. Instead, Flower Snake turned around and started walking toward her, step by step. "What are you doing? I warn you, Mr. Radcliffe." Save me confronted with Flower Snake advancing steadily toward her. Knox Ridge's legs went weak, and she lost all her previous bravado. Julius, Mom, seeing his mother in danger, Quella Radcliffe couldn't help but hold Julius Reed's hand. "What's the use of calling this good for nothing? Hurry up and find Radley Ridge." Knox Ridge retreated behind Belle Radcliffe, her eyes filled with fear. The other guests also turned to look in this direction, murmuring among themselves, "What the hell are you looking at? Everyone, get back to your meals!" With a shout from Flower Snake, everyone lowered their heads. At this moment, no one stepped forward to act the hero, as the wealthier people were more cautious about their own reputation. "Today I'm going to sort you out properly." Seeing that everyone had lowered their heads, Flower Snake casually walked toward Knox Ridge. Julius, Quella Radcliffe was truly panicking now. She knew that among those present, only her husband had the power to resolve this issue. After all, even Aaron Jackson had given him face at Azure Percival in the afternoon. "Mercy to those who deserve it, I say." Julius Reed spoke reluctantly. If it weren't for the sake of Quella Radcliffe, he really wouldn't mind Knox Ridge suffering a bit. With that mouth of hers, she was bound to face consequences sooner or later. "Who do you think you are? Don't make things worse for me here." Knox Ridge trembled with anger, unable to believe her useless son-in-law dared to see himself as someone important. But to her surprise, Flower Snake actually turned and walked away, no longer troubling her. This sparked a peculiar thought in Knox Ridge's mind. Could it be that her son-in-law actually had some influence? But Julius Reed hadn't stepped out of the house in 3 years, so how could he have made any friends? In the restroom, Radley Ridge glanced at the time and straightened his clothes before walking out. It was time to begin his performance. But the moment he stepped out of the restroom, he was so shocked that his mouth hung open. His parents lay on the ground, wailing, while Julius Reed sat on a chair looking completely at ease. "What's going on?" he bellowed, striding quickly toward Flower Snake. "Son, he hit both of us. Don't you know people from society? Call them over. Take revenge for us." Mother Ridge regained her fighting spirit as soon as she saw her son return. "What's going on?" Radley Ridge had an unspeakable bitterness inside him. The very people from society he knew were right in front of him. But why were they attacking his own family? "What's going on?" Flower Snake smirked coldly with narrowed eyes. "Little brother, you almost got me killed there in the afternoon." Jackson Brandon and Julius Reed had a confrontation and both inevitably suffered humiliation. Let alone him. Compared to Jackson Brandon, he was nothing. Not even worthy to be called a fart. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Radley Ridge said sternly, pointing to his parents. "Give me an explanation." Under no circumstances could he show even the slightest sign of weakness. Not to mention that Quella Radcliffe was right there watching. And with his parents beaten up like this, if he still remained silent and endured, how would others see him? Forget talking to him. Call someone to beat him up. Father Ridge touched his swollen face, his eyes nearly spitting fire. "Radley, people like him need to be taught a lesson." Seeing Radley Ridge return, Knox Ridge felt her confidence returning somewhat. After all, the Ridge family did have some strength in Gonzales City, and Radley Ridge was a student who studied abroad, with many impressive friends. Explanation. Flower Snake nodded and said, "All right, I'll explain it to you then." He fiercely slapped Radley Ridge across the face. Thwack. Radley Ridge stumbled backward a few steps and fell to the ground. "Are you fucking insane? Even hitting me?" Radley Ridge was completely dumbfounded. What on earth had happened outside during the few minutes he was hiding in the washroom? Subconsciously, Radley Ridge glanced at Julius Reed and noticed the latter was smiling. "Hitting you?" Flower Snake scoffed coldly. "Take care of him for me." No sooner had the words fallen than a quick encirclement followed, raining punches and kicks down on Radley Ridge. "Brother Snake, don't accidentally kill someone." Declan Martin whispered a reminder. So many people in the restaurant were watching. It was bound to have a significant impact. But there was no helping it. He couldn't afford to provoke Flower Snake, and could only stand there, watching helplessly as a customer was being beaten. "Flower Snake, you're fucking mad. Damn it!" Radley Ridge shielded his head with his hands, lying on the floor screaming in pain. The thugs were particularly heavy-handed, and in less than a minute he had been beaten black and blue. Enough. Don't kill anyone. Julius Reed picked up his chopsticks and calmly took a bite of his food. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone looked at him with strange glances. Would Flower Snake listen to him? Was this some kind of joke? I don't know him. If you want to fight, fight him. It has nothing to do with us. Knox Ridge called Quella Radcliffe towards her, shaking like a leaf. If Radley Ridge couldn't avoid a brutal beating, she was now thoroughly frightened. Yeah, we don't know him. It's merely a coincidence that we're sitting together. Belle Radcliffe also spoke up in explanation, his courage even smaller, and more afraid of trouble. Meanwhile, Declan Martin carefully scrutinized Julius Reed, silently sweating for him. Flower Snake was vicious. Speaking up at this time was just asking for trouble, wasn't it? But, against all odds, Flower Snake really did stop. Smiling, he walked over to Julius Reed and asked, "Bro, do you have any other business? If there's nothing, I'll take my leave first today." In order to redeem himself, he had not spared Radley Ridge. "No need, just don't fight and kill in front of me in the future. It can scare my wife and in-laws." Julius Reed, without even looking at Flower Snake, picked at the food on his plate. "Yes, Big Brother's lesson is correct. I really didn't know the Big Brother was here today. It's fine. Today I didn't see anything." Julius Reed had just raised his wine glass when Flower Snake immediately filled it for him. Everyone was stunned. The Flower Snake who was just arrogantly throwing his weight around was pouring wine for him? Who exactly was Julius Reed? The mighty dragon does not suppress the local snakes. Flower Snake was the bona fide local snake around here. Yet upon hearing Julius Reed's words, Flower Snake seemed relieved, not daring to say more, and quickly left with his men. Radley Ridge watched all this, his face turning deathly pale. This Julius Reed, where was even the slightest hint of him being drunk? He'd been played. Yet now, facing Julius Reed's smiling face, Radley Ridge couldn't muster a word for a long time. "Mr. Radcliffe, let's hurry back," Knox Ridge said in a low voice. "Okay." Belle Radcliffe nodded, put on his clothes, and walked towards the exit. The encounter with Flower Snake's ruthless fists had left the old couple shaken to their core. "Thanks for the drink. Remember to settle the bill after a few more bites of his meal." Julius Reed stood up, gave Radley Ridge a slight smile, took Quella Radcliffe by the hand, and walked out. Watching the departing figures, Radley Ridge trembled with rage. After a while, his eyes finally showed a gleam of coldness. "Julius Reed, you just wait. Don't think knowing a few thugs makes you untouchable. I'll make you beg for life and plead for death." Episode 32. Taking the fall for Julius. "Aren't you afraid of Radley Ridge's revenge for offending him like this?" Quella Radcliffe followed behind Julius Reed, feeling somewhat worried. Radley Ridge was notoriously two-faced, all smiles on the surface but ruthless and brutal in his actions behind the scenes. It was precisely because of this trait that Quella Radcliffe extremely disliked him. Now that her own husband had offended Radley Ridge, Quella Radcliffe was particularly concerned. "Don't worry, if he dares to lay a finger on you, I'll make sure he dies a horrible death." Julius Reed patted Quella Radcliffe's head with a faint smile. Radley Ridge was insignificant. If he so wished, he could crush him with just a flick of his finger. "That's good." Feeling a warmth in her heart upon hearing Julius's words, Quella Radcliffe was comforted. Even now, she felt as if she were dreaming. How could her husband, once scorned as a failure, suddenly change so drastically? "Do you still remember our wedding anniversary?" With this on her mind, Quella Radcliffe tentatively asked. "The 28th of March. What about it?" Julius Reed said, holding her hand as they walked down the restaurant's corridor. 3 years ago, on the 28th of March, they both entered the marriage hall together. The wedding caused a sensation across Gonzales City. Julius Reed vividly recalled Quella Radcliffe in her wedding dress, standing beside him like a fairy. But back then, the expression on her face was somewhat cold. "Why are you suddenly asking about this?" Julius Reed turned his head, looking at his wife. "No. Do you remember when my birthday is?" Quella Radcliffe asked, head bowed low, not looking into Julius's eyes. "Also the 28th of March. You said you wanted to get married on your birthday, and I agreed," Julius Reed said, a bit puzzled by why she was asking so many questions today. But the next moment, he suddenly realized something. Perhaps because of the drastic changes in himself. Quella Radcliffe had some doubts. Rest assured, it's as real as it gets. Julius Reed patted her head again, his eyes full of affection. Despite nearly 100 years of awakened memory, what he cherished the most was the wife he had taken during the 3 years he had lost his memory. Sir, you can't go. What do you mean I can't go? Let me tell you, don't meddle in things that aren't your business. Otherwise, be ready to lose your job. This is our policy. What if the car owner comes out? How will we explain you're like a dog chasing mice, always meddling in others' affairs? Be careful, or I'll file a complaint against you. Knox Ridge. Let it go. It really was my mistake. What do you mean? Let it go. Drive. Let's go. As they approached the entrance of Azure Wind Restaurant, they saw Knox Ridge in a dispute with several security guards. Belle Radcliffe, as usual, stood there silent. When a woman is too domineering, a man often appears very weak. In the Radcliffe family, Knox Ridge held all the power, and no one dared to defy this woman's will. Dad, Mom, what happened? Seeing the red-faced contention, Quella Radcliffe was somewhat concerned. Her own mother never gave her peace of mind. What exactly is the matter? Quella Radcliffe approached the group, furrowing her brow. Miss, this gentleman reversed into a Rolls-Royce parked nearby. The owner of the Rolls-Royce hasn't appeared yet, so we can't let them leave. The security guard explained patiently. It's not your car that got scratched. You sure like to poke your nose into wide matters. Just let us through. We're in a hurry. Knox Ridge always resorted to making a scene when faced with issues. Her shrewish spirit was something most people couldn't withstand. Lady, if we let you go, we'll have to bear the cost of the car owner's damage. As you know, just this small patch of paint on a Rolls-Royce could cost tens of thousands. The security guard patiently explained, maintaining politeness as required for guards of a high-end restaurant, even when dealing with such a shrew. Following the direction of the security guard's gaze, Quella Radcliffe was surprised to find that the Rolls-Royce was the same car Julius Reed had borrowed. When they arrived, they had parked it next to Belle Radcliffe's Passat. It must have been Belle Radcliffe who was so terrified in the restaurant that he panicked while driving and accidentally crashed the Rolls-Royce. She naturally knew the price of a Rolls-Royce, and such a big scrape would cost at least tens of thousands, possibly up to hundreds of thousands if it was serious. The car was borrowed by Julius Reed, and he would definitely have to bear the cost of the repairs. Thinking of this, Quella Radcliffe felt a wave of bitterness in her heart. I'll give you money. Once the car owner comes out, just say it was from me. Security brother, I'm in a hurry right now. Do you get it? If you delay our business, you can't afford it. Knox Ridge took out 10,000 yuan from her bag, handing it over to the security guard with evident pain. Although they were also part of the Radcliffe clan, the two of them combined didn't earn as much as Quella Radcliffe alone. This 10,000 yuan was also not a small sum, and Knox Ridge's heart was practically bleeding when she took it out. Madam, your 10,000 is not enough. We understand luxury cars too. It will cost at least tens of thousands. The car owner didn't leave a number, and we can't contact them. How about this? I'll go find the manager to look for the car owner. Then you can settle it between yourselves. The security guard took the walkie-talkie from his waist, ready to talk with the lobby. Hey, why are you like this? Knox Ridge certainly knew repairing the car would cost a lot of money, which is why she was willing to take out 10,000. Let them go. I'll stay. Julius Reed slowly walked down the steps. Right. This is my son-in-law. Let him stay here. Mr. Radcliffe, let's quickly leave. Seeing Julius Reed coming out of the restaurant, Knox Ridge quickly got into the passenger seat and buckled up her seatbelt. Quella, hurry up and get in the car, she gestured to her daughter. Now that Julius Reed had volunteered to take the fall, they might as well let this loser stay behind. I'm not going. Quella Radcliffe was extremely angry. Julius Reed had offered to stay, and her mother hadn't even said a word of thanks. Not only that, but Knox Ridge even wanted Julius Reed to stay behind alone. That was too much. I'm asking you one last time. Think it over carefully. Knox Ridge rolled down the window, looking at Quella Radcliffe angrily. Her daughter was actually siding with Julius Reed. She had thought Quella had come to her senses back at the restaurant. With a roar, Belle Radcliffe drove the Passat out of the Azure Wind restaurant parking lot. Because he was going too fast, he completely smashed the hotel's railing upon exiting. How could they do this? Quella Radcliffe stomped her foot in frustration as she watched the passer disappear in an instant, and tears began to fall. It's okay. Julius Reed walked over to her, gently bringing her into his embrace. Julius, I'm sorry. Quella Radcliffe's nose tingled, and she could no longer control her collapsing emotions. She knew her husband had suffered a lot over the past 3 years. Even now, being able to make Jackson Brandon bow, Julius Reed still continued to accommodate her parents, all for the sake of keeping her face. Sir, you see, the security guard approached Julius Reed somewhat helplessly, feeling sympathetic for him having such a mother-in-law. Julius Reed took out his car keys from his pocket and unlocked the car doors instantly. Do you have any cash on you? He looked at Quella Radcliffe. Although he was very rich, all his money was on a black card, and he didn't have a cent in cash. I do. Quella Radcliffe rummaged frantically, pulling out $2,000 in cash from her bag. This money is for fixing the railing, and you can use the rest to go have a drink. Julius Reed handed the $2,000 to the security guard, patting his shoulder. Thanks for your hard work so late at night. This. Thank you. The security guard accepted the money, feeling a warm surge in his heart. He had not expected that the young man before him was actually the owner of the Rolls-Royce and that he would treat them so kindly. A few hundred would fix the railing, and the rest of the money was a welcome surprise for them. Take care. So the security guards all saluted in unison. Episode 33. It's convenient when you get started. All the way, Quella Radcliffe kept her head down. She felt that this was really unfair to Julius Reed. I'll pay for the car repairs. Quella Radcliffe mustered up her courage and whispered from the passenger seat. This incident was caused by her parents, so only she could solve it. Julius Reed didn't have a cent to his name, and she knew that better than anyone else. It's fine, Julius Reed said nonchalantly. A few $100,000 was just a drop in the bucket for him. Now with the black card in hand, there must be at least tens of billions in it. And Titan Group was actually his company. No way. Quella Radcliffe shook her head like a rattle drum. Even though Sky Reed is your relative, the car was borrowed by us. We can't let others pay for it. Even though Sky Reed wouldn't miss that amount of money, it would undoubtedly make Julius Reed seem lesser in the eyes of others. From childhood to adulthood, Quella Radcliffe had always been so strong-willed. I still have money in my account. I'll check if it's enough tomorrow. Really, it's nothing. It's just a car, and Sky Reed and I are in good terms. Julius Reed chuckled on the side. The car was already his. It was just that he couldn't explain that to her yet. Quella Radcliffe couldn't fully accept what had happened today, and if she found out her husband was such a figure, she might very well be scared witless on the spot. The time wasn't right yet. Screech. Just then, Julius Reed abruptly brought the car to a halt. What's the matter? Quella Radcliffe lurched forward, looking at Julius Reed with a bewildered face. But she was surprised to discover that her husband's face bore an unprecedented seriousness. Stay in the car, no matter what happens. Don't make a sound. After saying this, Julius Reed opened the car door and walked slowly to the side of the road. Before Quella Radcliffe could figure out what was happening, 5 vans suddenly drove to the center of the road, and then a dozen men in black got out. Is this? Her pupils dilated sharply, and she reached for her phone to call the police. Even if she was naive, Quella Radcliffe knew they were in trouble. Kid, you've got guts. Just then, one of the men in black spoke up. Because it was late at night, the street was very quiet, so every word clearly reached Quella Radcliffe's ears. Tailing me for so long, you must be tired. How? Julius Reed put his hands in his pockets and coldly looked at the dozen or so men in black in front of him. After leaving Azure Wind Restaurant, he noticed someone tailing him, and that's why he decided to stop on the street, waiting for these people to make a move. This group probably wasn't called by Radley Ridge, because there wasn't enough time to organize such an operation. Didn't expect you to be quite smart. The leader of the men in black nodded and asked with a smile. Knowing that we're following you, you still dared to stop the car. If Julius Reed had sped up, they really would have had a hard time making a move. But since the other party realized they were being followed and still stopped, it puzzled the men in black. There are few people around here. Makes it less troublesome to take action, Julius Reed said with a smile, his hands still in his pockets. They were currently in a newly developed area of Gonzales City. Since it was undergoing development, there weren't many residents, and because it was late at night, there were hardly any cars passing by. Didn't expect you to be so considerate of us. The man in black gave a sinister smile, taking a cigarette out of his pocket. Do you want to know who sent us? He took a deep drag of his cigarette, asking in a deep voice. Couldn't be people sent by Jackson Brandon. Could it? After thinking it through, Julius Reed realized that today he had only offended Jackson Brandon. To create such a commotion, Otis Radcliffe didn't have the nerve, and Wellington Radcliffe was even less likely. No mistake about it. You really are tired of living. Daring to offend even Mr. Brandon. The leader threw his cigarette butt on the ground and stamped it out lightly. Mr. Brandon instructed to cripple you and throw you into the river. Move. After these words, the people in black swarmed up. Quella Radcliffe, inside the car, heard everything crystal clear. Her face turned pale with fright, and she hurriedly dialed the emergency number. Meanwhile, her eyes remained fixed on what was happening outside the car. Is that all Jackson Brandon is capable of? Julius Reed shook his head. These men in black might have some ability, but it was all brute strength. Now that his memories had awakened, dealing with such people was effortless for him. Bang! In the instant the men in black charged at him, he suddenly sprung forward. His powerful fist landed solidly on the foremost person, the immense force mimicking down 5 people in a row. Shit. He's a practitioner. Everyone be careful. The initially confident man in black grew serious, knocking down his 5 brothers with a single move. He definitely wasn't an ordinary person. But before he could recover from the shock, Julius Reed's fist smashed down again. Crack. The man in black hurriedly raised his arms to block. But the moment his arms came into contact with Julius's fist, the sound of breaking bones followed immediately. He screamed, lying on the ground, wailing in pain. Today, no one's leaving. Seeing the remaining few men in black attempting to flee to the van, Julius stomped the ground fiercely, shooting behind them like a snake. Bang, bang, bang. A series of 3 punches swung out, directly knocking them to the ground. In less than half a minute, over a dozen men had all fallen. Not one left standing. Good sir, spare me this once. The leader in black, enduring the pain of broken bones, pleaded from the ground. He was from the 3-Blade group, but he had no idea that he was up against such a fierce fighter. With just one encounter, all his men had lost their ability to fight. I am never merciful to my enemies. Julius Reed walked over to him coldly and slowly lifted a foot. Brother, you've already offended the Brandon family. Do you really want to offend the 3-Blade group as well? If you let me go, I will plead with Mr. Brandon for you when I return in a desperate situation. The man in black had no choice but to invoke the name of the power backing him. The 3-Blade group. Julius lifted an eyebrow and asked, is it the 3-Blade group from the 5 River Province? In the 5 River Province, among the famous names, there was the 3-Blade group. The big boss of the 3-Blade group was Morris Yarrow. When Aaron Jackson first came to Gonzales City, he considered whether to make an enemy of the 3-Blade group, but at that time he had lost his memory. To avoid trouble, Jackson didn't touch the 3-Blade group. Unexpectedly, today he encountered people from a branch of the 3-Blade group, and what's more, they were in cahoots with the Brandon family. Why are you working together with the Brandon family? If you say one wrong word, I'll take your life immediately. Julius threw his question bluntly. My name is Ignacio Cook. The 3-Blade group has nearly 1,000 people in Gonzales City. As for Mr. Brandon, he gave our manager $3 million to hire us to teach you a lesson. Ignacio Cook spilled everything without any hesitation, not daring to hide a single detail. You can die now. Bang. Julius's foot came crashing down, crushing his head. Come over and help me with this. He took out his cell phone and called Aaron Jackson. After finishing all this, Julius Reed straightened his clothes calmly and walked towards the Rolls-Royce as if nothing had happened. Hello, this is the emergency center. It's nothing now. Inside the car, Quella Radcliffe hung up the emergency call with trembling hands. Episode 34, Black Wind Bar. Throughout the journey, Quella Radcliffe couldn't shake off the shock from earlier. When had her husband become so powerful? Julius Reed had easily knocked down more than a dozen men, almost casually, but she didn't dare to ask, because Julius must have had his reasons for doing so. The atmosphere remained awkward all the way to their room, where they both went to bed separately. Julius couldn't speak about it, for it truly wasn't the right time yet. He didn't want Quella to get involved in this mess, at least not until he had resolved all the issues. Do I need to take care of the Brandon family after handling things? Aaron Jackson sent a message to Julius. He was particularly furious about today's events and was itching to lead his men straight to the Brandon family for retribution. The Brandon family was audacious indeed, daring to harm the young master of the 10,000 Mountain Alliance. They couldn't escape their doomed fate, but before taking action, he needed to consult Julius. Send the Brandon family a big present first. Also, give the Three-Blade Group a little knock for me. If the Brandon family dared to trouble him, Julius was certainly not going to let them off the hook. But now that the people from the Three-Blade Group were involved, it seemed a bit more complicated. He hadn't fully recovered his memories, but deep in his subconscious, he remembered having an extremely powerful enemy, and it was because of this person that he had lost his memory in the first place. The Three-Blade Group, they are involved too. Upon seeing Julius's message, Aaron felt a surge of nameless ire. He had long found the Three-Blade Group disagreeable but had refrained from taking action to avoid trouble. But now, they had crossed the line. The ones who troubled me today were from the Three-Blade Group. Accompany me to their company later and teach them a lesson. Julius detailed the evening's affairs and then turned off his phone. Pretending to sleep, Aaron was someone he could trust to handle things. But he had to personally take charge of today's matter. It might take a bit more effort to explain things to Queller, though. The night had deepened, and the citizens had long turned off their lights and gone to sleep, recharging for the next day's work. But in certain corners of the city, life was just beginning. Black Wind Bar, located in the outskirts of Gonzales City, was a bar that was closed during the day but bustling at night. Many regulars arrived early at the bar to start their hedonistic nightlife. Despite its remote location, the bar's facilities were quite complete, and even some bars in big cities might not compare, because the Black Wind Bar was established by the Three-Blade Group, backed by an immensely strong financial chain. Morris Yarrow had expanded into Gonzales City because it was close to the sea, convenient for many out-of-town visitors to come by boat. At this moment, a group of people got out of their vehicles, ready to enter the bar. Sir, please show your membership card. Upon reaching the entrance, several burly men stopped them. Take a good look. Dominating Tiger pulled out a golden card from his pocket, which bore the image of 3 steel knives and a skull. This was the Black Wind Bar's gold membership card, exclusive to the Three-Blade Group. Without this card, one couldn't even dream of setting foot inside the bar. Inside, there was a deputy manager from the Three-Blade Group, along with nearly 100 staff members. For Aaron, getting his hands on a Black Wind Bar membership card was no trouble at all. Please come inside. The moment the burly men saw the card, their attitude shifted to one of respect. A gold card. There were less than 10 in the entirety of Gonzales City. Boss Dominating Tiger stepped aside to let Julius and Aaron enter first, then followed closely behind with his men. As they walked, Dominating Tiger was extremely tense. Even though he usually roamed freely in Gonzales City, they were now on the Three-Blade Group's turf to cause trouble. Could they really get away unscathed? Watching the relaxed demeanor of Julius Reed and Aaron Jackson, Dominating Tiger couldn't help but feel unsettled. The Three-Blade Group is like a hegemon in Five River Province, and what they were about to do could be likened to pulling a tooth from a tiger's mouth. Boss, what would you like to drink? Seeing a group of people walking in, the greeter hurried over. Anything will do. Give me the most expensive drink first. Aaron Jackson pulled out a card from his pocket and handed it to the greeter. The faster, the better. Yes. Please wait a moment. The greeter's eyes shone with keenness, as a membership card of the 5 million level represents a big shot in a place like Gonzales City. He must be careful in attending to their needs, to avoid any trouble. A minute later, the greeter returned with the card and some fine cocktails, accompanied by one of the bar's managers. Gentlemen, you seem somewhat unfamiliar. Is this your first visit? Customers who could recharge 5 million in one go were rare. The lobby manager remembered every single one, but he had no recollection of these people. Very unfamiliar. A friend recommended the place. Aaron Jackson waved Dominating Tiger's card and said, "We're here to do business, and to have a bit of fun while we're at it." According to Aaron Jackson's thinking, they could just smash up the bar with his brothers, as he had the strength to do so. But Julius Reed disagreed, insisting on visiting the bar to see, kill with psychological tactics, and lead disaster elsewhere. Though Aaron Jackson didn't understand, he had no choice but to comply. Please follow me. Guided by the lobby manager, They arrived at a table. At the moment, the guests here were drinking and making merry. Men are competing in drinking speed to see who could drink the fastest. Beside them, many women let out shrieks, spurring on the men's will to compete. The bar was chaotic, and clearly not joking around. The Three Blade Group alone earned over $1 billion a year from Black Wind Bar. Therefore, Morris Yarrow valued the turf in Gonzales City highly and stationed many people from the Three Blade Group here. Moreover, he would inspect the place twice every month. The appearance of Julius Reed and his companions attracted a lot of attention, as among the many customers who came here, few were personally escorted by the lobby manager. This drinking pace is too slow. I can finish a bottle in 2 seconds. Julius Reed sat in his chair and said casually, "Is there anyone who'll drink with me? Whoever wins can take away 100,000 in one go." Aaron Jackson placed 10 bundles of $100 bills onto the table, immediately making everyone's eyes sparkle. To be honest, this is my first time here, so I don't know how to play anything else. The money's right here. If you have the skill, feel free to take it. This is just a start. How much I lose will depend on your abilities. Julius Reed crossed his legs and said indifferently. After he said this, the customers, as if injected with an adrenaline boost, began to rub their hands with anticipation. Since there was an easy mark giving away money, why would they refuse? Many even placed their hopes on Julius Reed, looking to win back a sum from him. If there are no objections, let's begin. Julius Reed glanced at the customers and pushed the 100,000 forward. I'll go first. A middle-aged man also took out 100,000 in banknotes, his eyes revealing a greedy glint. Sure. Julius Reed nodded and smiled, watching the man. Then I won't hold back. The middle-aged man took a deep breath, grabbed the bottle, and began to drink. Too slow at the same time. Julius Reed grasped a bottle with one hand, broke off the bottom, and swiftly sucked an entire bottle of booze into his belly. The man in front of him hadn't even gotten half a bottle down. Sorry, you lost, thug. Julius Reed tossed the bottle onto the table and a smirk curled upon his lips. Episode 35. Take the money and run. Well, a cry of surprise came from the table. Thanks. Brother. Aaron Jackson held the 100,000 in cash in front of Julius Reed, and Aaron Jackson held the 100,000 in cash in front of Julius Reed and asked, "Anyone else want to come? I'll do it." The failure of the first guest didn't sober the rest. On the contrary, more people were eager to try. The mentality of these bar patrons was always the same. They always thought they could succeed, but often, it was only after their failure that they could see themselves clearly. After a few rounds, many left dejected, having arrived full of fight, but when they left their seats, they all looked like defeated roosters. The noisy commotion quickly attracted the attention of countless others, who set aside what they were doing and gathered around to see what was happening. When they saw the small mountain of cash on Julius Reed's table, many felt a surge of hormones and a rush of excitement. By the end, the money in front of Julius Reed kept piling up, and the table could barely hold it. "What's going on? Someone causing trouble?" a bald man asked, frowning. Not far away, his name was Sonny Ridge, and he was the deputy manager of the Three Blade Group's branch in Gonzales City. He always guarded the Black Wind Bar, responsible for keeping a good hold of the place for the Three Blade Group. Today, seeing a stranger cause such an uproar, he, as the deputy manager, felt quite uneasy. "Brother, we've been watching him closely. This guy has taken quite a bit of money from our bar in just half an hour. If this continues, our customers won't dare to come back." The lobby manager responded in a low voice beside him. He had been standing by the whole time, but no matter how he observed, he couldn't detect any trickery from the other party. He had never seen such a way of drinking. This made him puzzled. The guy was clearly a newcomer, so how dared he make such a scene upon arrival? Besides, the Black Wind Bar was so renowned that nobody dared to make trouble. If someone was found intentionally causing trouble in the bar, they would face the punishment of having both hands chopped off. But if it was really just luck, that would be too incredible. "I'll go meet him." Sonny Ridge stood up and slowly walked toward the table. He truly couldn't believe that someone would dare to show such disrespect to the Three Blade Group. Meanwhile, Julius Reed was reaping a rich harvest, with cash piled high in front of him. In the regretful gaze of several patrons, Aaron Jackson pocketed 400,000 in cash. "Young man, not bad with the drinks. Sonny Ridge pushed through a few patrons in front of him and slowly sat down beside Julius Reed. Brother Drag and the others greeted Sonny Ridge upon seeing him. They mingled here all year round and were naturally very familiar with the deputy manager of the Three Blade Group. A few patrons who had lost money felt schadenfreude, thinking that with such a big win, Sonny Ridge would never let him walk away with the money. It was going to be a good show. Are you with this bar? Seeing the patron's attitude towards him, Julius Reed had a pretty good guess about the stranger's identity. Indeed, I am Sonny Ridge, in charge of the Black Wind Bar. You can't just take my customers' money. Where would that leave my face? As the boss, a cold glint shone in his eyes as if trying to see through the other man. Fine, as long as you don't welch on the bet. Julius Reed met his gaze, causing a sudden chill in Sonny Ridge's heart. In his eyes, he felt an indescribable fear. I'll put down 1 million here. Do you dare to take it? Julius Reed said with a faint smile. 1 million. His words caused a stir among the crowd. The stakes had been 100,000 each time, but now, playing against Sonny Ridge, he dared to say 1 million. Sonny Ridge was, in name, the boss of the Black Wind Bar. To speak to the boss like this was practically a death wish, wasn't it? Everyone was full of anticipation. All right, I'll play with you. Sonny Ridge furrowed his brows but still nodded in agreement. He had come to challenge the man, and now he couldn't back out just because the stakes were high, or he would become a laughingstock. Seeing Sonny Ridge nod, the patrons quickly surrounded the table, ready for the spectacle. One was a newcomer who had caused a sensation today. The other was the nominal boss of the Black Wind Bar. The duel between the two was bound to be very interesting. But since we're both men, let's solve this in a manly way. Sonny Ridge tossed 1 million in cash onto the table, twisting his neck to limber up. Forget it. My time is precious. I don't have time to play with you. Julius Reed glanced at his watch and waved his hand towards Aaron Jackson. Let's go at this. All the patrons were stunned. Sonny Ridge had brought the money and even took a seat, yet the other party just got up to leave. This was surely a severe lack of respect for Sonny Ridge. Those familiar with Sonny Ridge grew excited because they knew there was going to be a good show. This important figure from the Three Blade Group was known for his volatile temper. He wouldn't be able to swallow this insult. As expected, upon seeing Julius Reed about to leave, Sonny Ridge waved his hand, and the bouncers in the bar immediately surrounded them. Boss, what do you mean by this? Is this bar a black shop? Once you come, you're not allowed to leave. Julius Reed turned around, smiling at Sonny Ridge. Sorry, you can leave, but the money stays. Sonny Ridge slowly rose, pointing at the case in Aaron Jackson's hand. Leave the money, and the men can go. What do you mean by this? Aaron Jackson narrowed his eyes, emitting a chilling aura, and the men accompanying him also readied themselves for a fight. The air suddenly became tense. I'm talking about millions here every minute. You can't afford the loss if you keep me here. Julius Reed wasn't nervous but simply smiled lightly. Millions? Then let's bet 1 million. Dare or not, if you win, you take the money and go. I'll assure you no trouble. Sonny Ridge patted his chest in guarantee. Since you're so confident, why don't I oblige? Julius Reed stood still, calmly looking at Sonny Ridge. Tell me, how should we do this? A gleam flashed in Sonny Ridge's eyes as he couldn't refuse such an easy target. No matter the game, the outcome of his victory was unchangeable. Since we're at the bar, let's drink. There are 2 crates of alcohol, each with 24 bottles. Let's see who can drink more in 5 minutes. The one who drinks the most wins. A real man wouldn't be afraid to drink. Right? Julius Reed spoke calmly. Well, the crowd erupted in an instant. In Gonzales City, 1 million is no small amount. And to bet so casually, one must be really confident. How do I know if you can afford to lose? Though Sonny Ridge was secretly ecstatic, he kept a calm facade. This card? You can't tell me you don't recognize it. Can you? Aaron Jackson took out a black card and flaunted it in front of Sonny Ridge. Where's your money? We want cash. Go. Get the money. Sonny Ridge waved his hand broadly, trembling with excitement. As the boss of the bar, of course, he recognized the black card. It contained at least 1 billion. Moments later, a lackey from the bar walked up to the drinking table with 10 small cases. 1 million per case. 10 in total. Sonny Ridge opened each case one by one. Speaking seriously, there are so many witnesses here. You better not welch on the bet. They're all real. Aaron Jackson inspected the cases closely and then nodded at Julius Reed. Well then, let's begin. Julius Reed smiled faintly, casually picked up a beer bottle, popped the cap off with his finger, and started chugging. Sunny Ridge, not to be outdone, had the lackey line up opened bottles for him, but as he had drunk too fast, after 3 bottles, Sunny Ridge, believing himself to have an impressive tolerance, felt his stomach bloat, and he turned to vomit. Meanwhile, Julius Reed had already finished over a dozen bottles, as if his stomach was a vast container, continuously pouring them down his throat. Everyone was astonished. Was he still human? By the time Julius Reed finished the last bottle, Sunny Ridge had only managed 6. His belly was bloated like a ball and his face had turned purple. Time's up. Since it's like this, thank you for the generosity, Brother Dragon. I'll take the money and leave. Julius Reed got up, placing the final empty bottle on the table, and gave Sunny Ridge a slight smile.